I've been riding this YT Decoy for a couple of months now, and I love it. But I was going on a ride to an area I hadn't been in a while and decided to take my Canyon Spectral on, which I haven't ridden in a while, but I realized how much I really love this bike. So I thought I'd take the opportunity to kind of go over some of the things I've done to this bike to really make it my own. My name is Patrick, and on this channel I share my experiences with my e-mountain bike and the parts that I put on the bike, as well as trails that I do around the area I live. Please subscribe if you want to see videos like this. It's really what motivates me, and I love to have questions and respond to any questions or ideas you have for future videos. I bought this bike about a year ago in 2024. It's a 2024 Canyon Spectral on CF8, and it was my first e-bike. I love the way it rides. I did when I bought it, I still do, but I've made upgrades to it to sort of personalize it. Not absolutely necessary. I still would love the bike if I didn't make these upgrades, but some of the upgrades were worth it for me, and it was one that was an upgrade that is really a downgrade and saved me money, and I'll share that one when I get to the end. That's the last one I did. So the first thing I did was change out the tires to tubeless. They send the bikes prepared for tubeless, and I hadn't switched that out when I got my first flat and realized I really needed to switch it over. I did that, and then I still got a flat, and this time it was because the rim, which is pretty wide on these bikes, at least it was when I bought it, I think it was over 35 millimeters in the rear, kind of sticks out a bit, and they're aluminum, so the edges are pretty sharp and they cut right into the tire if you're not really good about keeping your tire pressure at the optimum level, which I was not, and hit a rock and sliced two nice little slices right through the tire and ruined it. So at that point, I decided to get beefier tires and to change the rims. The rims I chose were WR1 because they are pretty beefy. They're made for mountain biking, and they have a really nice wide edge to the rim. They're narrower, they're 30 millimeters, and they have a lifetime guarantee as long as you don't throw it off your car or something going down the highway. If you're riding it and you break it, you get a new one. The other thing about the rims is they came with hubs, particularly the rear hub, with a finer spline, so I got more engagement. The original hubs that were on the bike had really low engagement, maybe 24 engagements per revolution. These are at least double that, and that prevents that jerkiness when you go to pedal and your pedals kind of move a distance before they engage, which creates pedal strikes for me when I'm riding. So having that faster engagement was a plus for me. The next big change I made was the forks. This came with Fox forks, but they were 36 millimeter stanchions, and they didn't have the Grip 2 damper, which allows for more adjustment. And also they were 150 millimeters. I wanted to go to 160 millimeters, not just for the additional travel, but for creating a little bit more laid out rake to the bike, just slightly. That's, I believe, 160 millimeters is what they put on the bikes now. And I saw some things on YouTube that said, hey, this is the way to kind of make this bike a little slacker and improve the handling. And you did notice the difference, a little less maneuverable on the trail, but once you get used to that, you ride a little bit differently, and it's definitely more confidence inspiring. The forks themselves made a huge difference. The 38 millimeter stanchions really stiffens up the fork, and for me, riding through rough rocky sections or rooty sections, which I typically don't like to slow down in, it's just much more confidence inspiring, and you just a little bit more control of the bike. It was interesting, we had two of these bikes. My friend Mike has a bike just like it. He had not made that upgrade, so we were able to switch back and forth. And the first thing we said was, wow, and we actually had to go fill the tire. will you have the same tire pressure in both these tires? Because it felt like we had 5 psi less in the new forks than with the older bike. So definitely a smoother feel and just a more solid feel. And before we got done with that ride, Mike said, okay, now I need to get those forks. And it was interesting, after upgrading the forks, I asked one of my local shops, said, hey, is it worthwhile upgrading the rear shock? And I also asked the same question to a company that I could buy it from online. Both of them came back and said, nope, not necessary, just the front forks. Well, I kind of felt like, man, that made such a difference in the front. I feel like I want that adjustability in the rear, and I just want to see if that makes a bit of difference. So I chose the Cane Creek Kutsuma Air, which I liked because it had some easy adjustability on all of the damping adjustments. You could look down and see what the adjustments were, and that's always a problem for me. If you just want to make a minor adjustment, you always forget kind of where you are. With this shock, you don't. And I heard some good reviews about it. I called those folks, and they seem like a smaller company, kind of like We Are One, and I just kind of wanted to support them. So I'm really happy with the choice that I made. The result was, now, I had been tuning the front fork for weeks just to get it dialed in and make it perfect. And I thought I got the bike just about as good as I could make it. And so I was very used to how the ride of the bike would react to changes. And as soon as I put that rear shock on, oh boy, it made it feel like the front fork improved. And I think that's because you're typically getting most of the feedback from your bike from the handlebars. You feel it less in your legs, and it sort of makes you think that it's coming from the front fork. And it sort of is, but that rear shock is making your bike do things that the fork sometimes can't handle. And if that rear shock is doing well, that's going to make the front fork work well. So my experience has been the rear shock was definitely worth the upgrade. Something I changed that made absolutely no difference whatsoever were the handlebars, but they look cool. So I switched from the aluminum bars to deity carbon bars. I did choose a lower rise, so I'd bring the bike down a little bit from the 10 millimeters I had risen it from adding the suspension to the forks. So that was a little bit of an excuse to buy some bling for the bike. A couple small things I bought when I bought the bike from Canyon. The bottle cage for me was necessary. I like to carry a bottle with me where I go, and it requires a custom mount. And they make a mount for the stem for your Garmin, which I use to mount my Garmin Edge Explorer, which is great. I use it with trail forks, and I use it particularly with Strava, loading my maps, and when I go to areas that I've not been to before. I'm going to make a video in the future about how to find trails in your local area that are not mapped. It's pretty trick. It's what maybe some of you do this already, but I didn't really read about it. I just started figuring this out, and it's a pretty cool way to find nice trails that may or may not be on some maps. Another little change I made, which some of you have commented on, and if you watch my videos of some of my trail riding, you'll notice it. I don't really notice it when it's happening, but that little bell right there, that is there because of where I live. You are definitely going to have bear encounters if you ride enough, and I've had 3 of them. Hey, bear. That I know of. But every one of them, the bear has been going the other direction because it heard the bell before I saw the bear. So the last change I made to this bike, which I'm really happy with, is something I did sort of out of necessity, but I was already planning on it. If you watched one of my earlier videos, you saw I broke the chain on this bike. Happened at 1,500 miles, probably a little later than you would normally expect it. It turned out the chain had got to its sort of wear length by 700 miles, but I kept riding it because I knew I had this additional, or this new drivetrain I was planning to put in. Now the new drivetrain is, by many accounts, if you look at the costs, a downgrade. But I went from Hyperglide, which is one of the higher end Shimano drivetrains, to Link Glide, which is a less expensive but more durable drivetrain. You do lose one gear in the process, but with an e-bike, you don't notice the difference. But what you do get is smoother shifting, a little bit more solid feel when you're shifting. The drivetrain is just super quiet. It's never hunting. Sometimes if you don't have your derailleur just perfectly dialed in, it'll hunt a little bit. This one's got a little bit more tolerance, so it's easier to dial in. So I've got it dialed in, I don't hear any hunting. And especially on climbs, the way they've got the teeth set up and the rear cog set, where it doesn't shift as quickly, but it shifts more solidly, really engages well. And I took my cue from the automatic shifting that Shimano offers with the EP801. I don't have it, but they require the Link Glide suspension because it makes it easier on that shifter to make that change. Figured if it's easier for the shifter to do it, then it's going to be easier for me to do it. So I'm happy with that change. The added bonus is supposed to last 3 times longer, so even though I spent about $300, you have to change the cog set, you have to change the derailleur, and you have to change the shifter. I was replacing the chain anyway, but you do have to change the chain because it's an 11-speed chain, a little bit more durable. But once you make that change, it's going to last longer, and when you do replacements, it's going to be less expensive. So that's it. If you haven't subscribed, please do it and send me your comments and ideas. It really helps motivate me and keep these videos going. And I'll be posting some more videos about this Canyon, some of the places I'm riding, and my YT decoy, which I've got a few coming up about that bike, some upgrades and some repairs that you'll probably want to know about if you have that bike or are thinking of buying it. Until next time.